Welcome back to the deep dive. You know, every so often a book comes along that genuinely flips how people think about, well, a fundamental area of their life.
Hmm.
For money, Robert T. Kiyosaki's Rich Dad, Poor Dad is absolutely one of those. I was particularly struck by how it became this global phenomenon.
Yeah, it really resonated, inspiring millions to challenge that traditional financial wisdom.
Exactly. So today we're embarking on an exploration of this influential book. We're drawing insights from a pretty thorough ebook review we looked at.
Right.
And our mission really is to extract the most impactful nuggets, give you a shortcut to understanding its core message and, the profound way it's shaped financial thinking worldwide.
It's built around this really simple contrast, isn't it?
It is. At its heart, Rich Dad Poor Dad presents this stark yet illuminating contrast. Kiyosaki invites us into the world of two pivotal father figures in his life,
His biological father, the poor dad.
and his best friend's father, the rich dad. And it's more than just a personal finance book. It feels like a powerful story about financial education and, well, self-help.
Yeah, definitely leans into that self-help space.
So let's open Kiyosaki's story by diving into that central comparison he draws. What makes this dual father framework so incredibly effective for teaching something as, let's face it, complex as money management?
What's truly fascinating is how Kiyosaki uses this comparative storytelling.
Mm-hmm.
It just makes these fundamental principles of wealth building and financial independence so accessible.
Right. It's not just dry theory.
Exactly. It's not just an explanation. It illustrates why different mindsets and actions lead to vastly different financial outcomes. By showing the contrasting advice, the book doesn't just tell you what to do.
Mm-hmm.
It provides this relatable narrative that really embeds the why. And often it makes you reevaluate your own financial upbringing.
That narrative power is precisely what makes his key lessons stick, I think. Let's dig into the first one, maybe the most foundational distinction Kiyosaki makes between assets and liabilities.
Yes, the core concept.
He argues that wealthy people acquire assets, things that consistently generate income, while poor and middle-class individuals often acquire liabilities that they mistakenly think are assets.
This distinction is like a total game changer for so many people. An asset, simply put, is anything that puts money in your pocket.
Okay, like what?
Well, think rental properties, dividend-paying stocks, maybe a profitable business you own. A liability, conversely, is something that takes money out of your pocket. Car payments, even controversially, a personal home with a big mortgage.
Controversially is right. People think of their house as their biggest asset.
Exactly. And what's often overlooked and what makes Kiyosaki's point so powerful is how deeply ingrained that perception is. He challenges that. He forces you to look at the actual cash flow, not just the, perceived value on paper.
So it's about the money movement.
Right. Understanding this difference is absolutely essential for truly building wealth rather than just accumulating stuff or
Oh,
debt.
that's a really powerful reframe. And this emphasis on understanding what money is actually doing for you. Well, it leads naturally to Kiyosaki's next big point, the absolute necessity of financial education.
Yeah, this is huge in the book.
He makes a bold claim, basically saying that traditional schools just don't teach us about money. He argues that financial literacy, really understanding how money works, is far more important for long-term success than just, getting a good job and working hard for a paycheck.
And we connect this to the bigger picture. It really highlights a profound gap in our educational systems, doesn't it?
It does.
Most of us are taught how to be good employees, sure, but not necessarily financially savvy individuals.
Mm-hmm.
Kiyosaki points out that without understanding things like cash flow,
That term again?
the actual movement of money in and out of your life,
Mm-hmm.
and the nuances of investments, taxes, you're always kind of playing catch up. You're at a disadvantage. This understanding is foundational for personal finance. It empowers you. It lets you make informed decisions, not just operate within someone else's, financial machine. It's about being in control.
Not just being controlled by your income.
Exact.
And that sense of empowerment, that control, leads directly into lesson 3. Kiyosaki encourages us to work to learn, not just to earn. It's a real mindset shift.
Yeah, go against the grain a bit.
Totally. Instead of solely chasing promotions or bigger salaries, his rich dad advises focusing on acquiring diverse skills, especially, he points out, in areas like sales and marketing.
Interesting. Why those specifically?
Well, the goal is to actively grow your financial IQ, which Kiyosaki defines as your understanding of how money works, how to make it, manage it, multiply it. I remember when I first read this.
Uh-huh.
It completely reframed how I looked at jobs.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it made me look for roles where I could gain experience in different parts of a business, not just the one offering the absolute highest starting salary.
That's a great practical example. And it really speaks to this idea of investing in your intellectual capital, your personal development.
Right.
It's about building a valuable skill set that kind of transcends just one job role, makes you more adaptable, more resilient in the long run.
Definitely.
When you work to learn, you're accumulating diverse expertise, and that can be leveraged later to create your own opportunities rather than just being stuck on one career path.
And this idea, working to learn, it isn't just about piling up skills for a resume, is it? It's the foundation for what Kiyosaki sees as the bedrock of long-term wealth.
Let me guess. Passive income.
You got it. The power of passive income. He really champions building streams of income that don't require your constant active labor. He contrasts it sharply with active income from a typical job.
This is where that concept of money working for you really comes alive. It's not just a catchy phrase.
So beyond the classic real estate example, what else falls under passive income?
Well, think about dividend-paying stocks, royalties from maybe a book or music you created, even certain digital assets these days. The key point is that the income generation is detached or largely detached from your direct hourly effort.
Okay.
And generating passive income is just fundamental for long-term financial freedom. It creates leverage. Once these streams are set up, they can keep generating wealth with hopefully minimal ongoing effort. That frees up your time, your resources.
Other ventures or just life?
Exactly, enjoying life.
Okay, so the final big lesson we pulled out. Kiyosaki places significant emphasis on overcoming fear and taking risks. He argues for cultivating a mindset that, embraces challenges and encourages taking calculated financial risks. Is it just about being brave, though? Or is there more to it?
Well, this raises a really important question, doesn't it? How much of wealth building is actually about the financial mechanics versus the psychological side, your mindset?
Yeah.
Kiyosaki suggests it's often more about mindset over fear. He implies that the biggest barrier for many isn't a lack of opportunity or even intelligence, but rather that fear of failure, fear of stepping outside those traditional financial norms, maybe even fear of what other people might think.
That's a big one.
It is. So it's about learning to manage your emotional reactions to money, especially when opportunities pop up that feel a bit risky or unconventional.
The impact of Rich Dad, Poor Dad is just undeniable. Our review really highlighted its simple language, the easy-to-understand concepts as major strengths.
Definitely. It's very accessible.
And that inspiring storytelling format, it makes the lessons incredibly relatable. It kind of draws you in rather than overwhelming you with financial jargon.
Absolutely. And it manages to challenge so many deeply ingrained traditional beliefs about job security, the whole purpose of education. It's not just a passive read, It actively motivates readers to fundamentally rethink their relationship with money and wealth. Often, it sparks this immediate desire to learn more, maybe take some kind of action in their own lives.
Now, okay, while the book's impact is clear, our review also pointed out some of the criticisms it's faced over the years.
Sure, no book is perfect.
It's acknowledged that Rich Dad, Poor Dad offers, let's say, limited, practical, step-by-step advice. It focuses much more on those big mindset shifts than concrete action plans.
Right. The how-to is sometimes missing.
Exactly. Our review specifically noted it can leave readers asking, okay, I get the mindset, I'm inspired, but how do I actually do this? And some of the examples maybe can feel a bit repetitive or overly simplistic sometimes, which might frustrate readers who already have some financial knowledge.
That's fair. And it's important we mention, impartially, of course, the criticism reported in the source material, that Kiyosaki's own financial success story isn't always clearly detailed or easily verifiable in the book itself.
Oh.
This is a point critics often bring up. They suggest that while the mindset advice is powerful, the direct path he took isn't always transparent. And that makes some people question how actionable his advice really is if you can't see the clear steps.
Right.
It doesn't necessarily negate the power of the core ideas, but it is a point of contention for some readers looking for more explicit how-to examples from his own life.
Okay, good point to include. So what does this all mean for you, our listener? Who should really engage with these ideas?
Who's the target audience? Yeah.
Well, the review identifies a few key groups. Young adults, students just starting their careers. Makes sense.
Definitely. Early stage is a great time for this mindset shift.
Employees may be looking to transition into entrepreneurship or investing. Anyone who feels kind of stuck in that paycheck to paycheck cycle.
Yeah, looking for a way out.
And frankly, any beginner just looking to understand personal finance concepts in a simple, straightforward way without getting totally bogged down in complex jargon.
It's exactly.
Yeah.
Kiyosaki's distinction between assets and liabilities, even if simplified as money in versus money out, is just crucial. It forces you to look beyond that conventional wisdom.
Challenging the idea that a depreciating car or even a mortgage-heavy home are always assets in the wealth-building sense.
Precisely. So while Rich Dad, Poor Dad might not be, a technical guide to stock picking or real estate syndication,
Right.
it absolutely delivers a powerful mindset shift. And just a practical note for those of you who prefer digital ebook experience, mentioned in the review was positive, well-formatted, easy to navigate, good features like highlighting and notes for, reading and reflecting on the go.
Good to know. Okay, so to wrap things up then, despite some of those criticisms about maybe lacking specific actionable advice, Rich Dad, Poor Dad really remains a truly foundational read, especially for anyone just beginning their journey toward financial freedom.
Agreed. It sets the stage.
It's less of a rigid how-to manual maybe, and more of a why-to inspiration. It fiercely encourages you to take control of your financial future, to start thinking like an investor, and crucially, to never ever stop learning.
Yeah. And this whole exploration of Rich Dad, Poor Dad, it really emphasizes the power of that mindset shift over just having technical guides. It kind of makes you wonder, beyond the specifics of assets and liabilities that everyone talks about, what unconventional financial wisdom are you perhaps overlooking in your own life simply because it doesn't fit neatly into that traditional narrative?
That's a really powerful question to ponder. We hope this deep dive has sparked some new ideas for you and your own financial journey. Thanks for joining us.